Well, ever since September 11th, Homeland Security is supposed to be a top priority.
But believe it or not, security is actually being cut at some potential terrorist targets in Boston and around New England. Investigative reporter Mike Bodette reveals why.
They're federal police officers known as the Federal Protective Service. It's their job to guard federal buildings all over the country. But budget cuts have led to a significantly reduced workforce. The result in Boston and around the country, the federal police are often not on the job, leaving federal buildings unguarded. It's daytime on a weekday in Boston. The Federal Protective Service is on the job, a visible show of force. Federal police officers are guarding federal buildings in downtown Boston. 42,000 federal employees work in 6 buildings here that are considered prime targets. Are you the first line of defense?
We are absolutely the first line of defense on the outsides of these facilities.
David Wright is president of the National Federal Protective Service Union. He says budget cuts are crippling the federal police, leaving federal properties, some of which are symbolic or strategic targets, vulnerable at the worst possible time. This is one of those potential symbolic or strategic targets, the John F. Kennedy Federal Building here in downtown Boston. We're here on a Sunday evening and the guard shack is empty. The federal police are nowhere to be seen. It's the same story here at the Tip O'Neill Federal Building on Causeway Street. No federal police anywhere. That's because of budget cuts, which are leaving potential terrorist targets unwatched on weekends and every night of the week. Federal buildings aren't being watched around the clock?
As a rule across the nation, they are not being watched.
That doesn't seem to make a lot of sense.
That makes no sense.
Nationwide, the number of Federal Protective Service employees peaked in 2003 at 1,450. It's now dropped to 1,170. By October 1st, there will be only 950 Federal Protective Service employees. That's 30 fewer than on April 19, 1995.
I've got a hot device. Get them back!
9:02 that morning, a homegrown terrorist with a hatred for the government set off a massive truck bomb, killing 168 people at the Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma City. The attack prompted a significant expansion of the Federal Protective Service.
I just find it very ironic that today the proposal is to go down to 950, which is less than the day before Oklahoma City.
What's it going to take? Another tragedy to get manpower back up?
Unfortunately, that's been the pattern.
After September 11, 2001, Homeland Security became the nation's top priority. Since then, federal buildings have been targeted by terrorists.
Today we dodged a bullet.
Just this month, the FBI arrested 6 men in New Jersey, foiling a terrorist plot. According to this unclassified government report, the men had conducted repeated surveillance of potential targets, including federal buildings, the William J. Green Federal Building and the United States Coast Guard Building in Philadelphia. Here in Boston in 2005, this man, Rangus Spots, targeted the JFK Federal Building. According to this court document, Spots kicked 2 canisters into the lobby of the building, emitting their poisonous contents. Spots then tried to light a tennis ball on fire found to contain a flammable liquid. 10 federal police officers subdued and arrested Spots. That case is pending in U.S. District Court. In the wake of 9/11, does it make sense to reduce security at federal buildings?
Absolutely not. This is a critical homeland security issue, and I see it as an abrogation of the federal government's duties to protect federal properties, federal employees, and the public that visit.
Thank you. Be seated.
There have been 2 congressional hearings in Washington recently looking at the wisdom of further cuts to the Federal Protective Service.
I don't think it would give great comfort to the folks at Oklahoma City to know that that's what's happening to the Federal Protective Service in the aftermath of the tragedy that occurred there.
Unless Congress steps in with more money, Immigration, Customs and Enforcement, the agency that oversees the Federal Protective Service, plans to go ahead with the additional cuts in federal police staffing. Will it be easier for a terrorist to do something bad?
It will be absolutely easier.
We asked U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement to respond to the union president's claims. The only response? This 4-page fact sheet, which indicates about 15,000 contract security guards are also watching federal buildings around the country. It also states that with the reorganization, the Federal Protective Service will provide an even greater level of security for federal facilities, clients, employees, and visitors. Immigration and Customs is expecting local law enforcement to help fill gaps in security. But a spokeswoman for Boston Police tells us that's surprising news to the police commissioner, who hasn't been notified and has his hands full with the rest of the city. You have an idea for a Fox Undercover investigation? Call us at 1-800-TV-FOX25. I'm Mike Bodette for Fox Undercover.